Yeah, thanks. Thanks for invitation.
Why don't you just tell our listeners how long you've been excavating and working at the Göbekli Tepe site in Turkey?
I'm working there since 1995. So now we have 15 seasons of excavation behind us, and we are looking forward to the 16th season of yearly excavations at the site.
Wow, that's incredible. So you've been there for a long time. And what would you say to our listeners who haven't heard about the site before? Maybe you can just describe it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a mound on top of a limestone ridge. It's dominating the landscape. It's a landmark visible from far away. But this mound on top of this limestone ridge is not a natural mound. It's an artificial mound. It's a settlement mound, like many other mounds like that in the Near East. But there's a specific thing with it. It's dating. Usually the settlement mounds are from Bronze Age or Iron Age, but this mound is completely from pre-pottery Neolithic period, a period which is dated to the 10th, 9th, and 8th millennium BC.
Wow. Okay, so it's very, very old, obviously. And how do you go about dating some of these sites? Then can you directly date the stone, or do you date like pottery around, or how do you go about doing that?
No, there is no pottery. It's a pre-pottery site.
Pre-pottery.
So pottery is not invented in this time. But dating, yeah, there are two main possibilities. It's archaeological dating. It means comparison to other sites to have a relative date. Other sites are older or contemporaneous or younger, so you can have a relative chronology by archaeological methods only, but especially by radiocarbon method, we are getting the absolute chronology. And we have a close, dense network of radiocarbon dates from Göbekli Tepe and from other sites which are connected by archaeological dating to the site. So the dating in general is clear. There is no question about it that we are in this time span between 9,500 and 8,000 with the site of Göbekli Tepe. BC.
BC. So this is obviously predating what we commonly think about the beginnings of our civilization down in Sumer, Babylonia, Mesopotamia, and so forth.
Yeah, it's a problem with Mesopotamia because there we have the alluvial plain, which is hiding a lot of the early sites. So they are not visible there, but maybe they existed. Maybe we have this period existing there, but now it's buried by the alluvial plain.
Okay. So what can you tell us about the people who you think lived there, or rather maybe they don't even live there, because I guess there's a theory that this was actually a religious site, a temple of sorts, right?
It's a religious site, it's clear, so it's not a settlement site. We call it settlement mound, but the word settlement in Göbekli Tepe has a problem because mainly we have megalithic buildings which are sanctuaries, clearly sanctuaries. They are not for daily life. They're not made for daily life. With megaliths of many tons weight and so on. The construction of these sites, of these enclosures, had been a big effort for hundreds of persons. So mainly it's a sanctuary site, not a settlement site. A site for people coming from far away, from settlements in the plains, in the valleys. The people came to the site for specific rituals, for religious reasons, and then they built these monuments. And then later, after some time, they went away back to their homelands, to their territories.
How often do you think they visited this site then?
That's not clear, though. Maybe not very often. Maybe only very, very important events brought the people to the site, or caused the people to come to meet at the site.
Yes. Is it would you say also that it's a kind of a temple, but it's open space, right? There's no ceiling or anything like that directly?
We have a lot of unsolved questions. So we can call it temple, but we are not sure if they had been roofed or not, or open enclosures. So it's still an unsolved question. We have observations in both directions. One idea, open stone circles, open temenoi-like constructions. But there are also observations which are telling us there should have been a roof, because, for example, today we have a big problem with the preservation of the site. The winter rains are causing heavy damage in the excavated walls and structures. And it should have been the same in the Stone Age. So when it had been opened, the winter rains had been very dangerous for the constructions. So for this reason, we have to think if there had been a roof or maybe a tent-like roofing of the enclosures.
Mm. And I mean, some of the heaviest stones I read weighed up to about 50 tons. How do you think they were moved and put into place?
Yeah, so like in any megalithic monument, so there are a lot of reconstructions how to do it. You just need some tricks, some wooden beams and ropes and so on, and some people. So a lot of people do draw it, but it's not so difficult. So.
Okay.
So the main or the astonishing fact is that we didn't expect for hunter-gatherer societies to be able to manage such an operation, to transport a megalith. So we didn't expect it for hunter-gatherer societies. But the people in Göbekli Tepe still are hunter-gatherers. They didn't invent the domestication of plants and animals. Not yet. They are in this process involved, but their daily life was not influenced by farming and agriculture and such things.
Which would make this site a unique thing in the world probably then, because in most cases, as you say, agriculture is related to a permanent settlement somewhere, and you might have a religious site or a temple or something like that coming up together with that, so to speak, right?
We understand that the period before Neolithic societies, the hunter-gatherer societies of the Paleolithic period or the Mesolithic period in Europe after the Ice Age. So maybe we didn't expect what they could do with their engineering skills and so on. They had been not just hunting in the forest, but they had been able to do a lot of things. For example, to build ships. The colonization of Cyprus, which we know now is done in the 9th millennium, needs not only some little boats but nearly ships, and these are people still in the Mesolithic surroundings. So. Now we are understanding a little step by step. We understand more about this fascinating period of the late hunter-gatherer societies, especially in the Eastern Mediterranean.
Yes, because I'm thinking also about some of the carvings on the stones, if it's related to directly just imagery, or if there's any evidence of scripture language or something like that.
Writing, you mean writing?
Writing, yes.
No. Writing needs a lot of other things. So there is a pre-writing system of symbols,
yes,
which had been understood by the people, like paintings can be read. So iconography is existing. So there are different animals and different symbols. They have a meaning. It's clear. And they told a story. But writing is different. So it's not writing. But it's a pre-writing system of symbols and signs.
We have images like foxes, vultures, scorpions, and things like that. What do you think that they mean?
Yeah, I think their meaning is not far away from the animal is meaning. The foxes are clever and they're tricky. So I think it's included in some way in the meaning. Or the vultures, as we know, they are eating dead bodies and so on. It should be on this base, but they are doing something. They are not just depicted like totems, but they are depicted in action. They are depicted confronting each other and such things. So they are myths maybe illustrated by these carvings.
There's other theories out there in terms of the subject called archaeoastronomy, that many of the older sites and so forth might be related to star or patterns in the sky. Do you see similar correlations here?
I wouldn't exclude that there is some archaeoastronomy existent in Göbekli Tepe, but it's not very obvious. So it's not. I would be very surprised if we one day could find out really, and if we could prove such a connection. Clearly, the orientation was done not free from anything. So the east and west, the sunset and sunrise, it's always known by the people. But the enclosures mainly are looking down to the plain where the people had been coming from. It looks like that this is more important for the orientation than an astronomical orientation.
And when I looked at some of the pictures, it reminded me very much like basically a stone circle, like Stonehenge or something like that. Is there similarities?
There is a similarity, but not a genetical, but just the idea to have some circle, some Kreisgrabenanlage, as we have in Germany many now from the Neolithic period. So it's a similarity in the idea of megalithism and monumental circles and so on to make enclosures, to divide between outside and inside, between the outside world and a sacred space which is produced by this circle.
Mm.
It's a common idea, I suppose, between many megalithic monuments in Western Europe and in Göbekli Tepe in the East. But there is not a genetical connection between these.
Okay, I see.
It's ideas. Humans always have similar ideas because we are all Homo sapiens, and Homo sapiens is doing always the same all over the world.
Do you think? I mean, many people speculate not only in terms of Stonehenge, but other megalithic sites around the world that they're in some way related to rituals of death and birth and things like that. Is there any similar evidence here that the site were indeed used for rituals in terms of life and death worship? Yeah,
rituals, but rituals can be done for different reasons. So not only for life and death, but initiation, for example, or other important events for a society. They all could be part of such rituals. So life and death, especially the death, clearly is the most important event in life, so or for the society. So if persons die, so we can expect that these rituals in connection with burials always had been very, very important, and that monuments usually, or we can think about, are they in connection with such rituals? So in Göbekli Tepe we have this hypothesis that the rituals done there mainly had been in context of burial rites.
Mm.
But we don't have the burials for the moment, or we didn't discover the primary burials. But we expect that the burials will be behind the walls of our enclosures, but we don't take away these walls because it means a destruction of the monument. So we have to be a little bit patient to answer all these questions in detail.
So how much of the site do you reckon have been excavated so far, and how much do you have left, do you think?
We excavated only a minor part of the site. The site is very, very large and very big. So we know by geophysics that at least 20 big enclosures are existing there, and we have 4 under excavation for the moment. Our goal is not to excavate everything rapidly. So our goal is to keep most of the site untouched. Mm-hmm. To excavate just enough to understand what's going on. But excavation means destruction. So our main goal is to protect the site for the future, untouched by excavation work. But to excavate some parts to understand what's going on at the site.
What do you expect that you will potentially will find then? Have you any theories in terms of possible finds at these sites?
Yeah, as we are now working since 15 years, so I think we know in general what we will discover there. But every year we discover new sculptures, we discover new reliefs with new motifs, new scenes, and every new relief and every new sculpture is helping us. It's bringing us forward in understanding the meaning of the rites and the meaning of the site. So it means we have to excavate many years more. The site is very big, and we still have more open questions than answered questions. So it means at least 20 years we have to continue to work there.
Wow, that's a long time, and
a long time. At least I would say it's more than 20 years.
Wow,
and the site will be not excavated completely in this time, but. Maybe now we have 4 circles under excavation. Maybe we add 4 more to understand really what's going on there.
Can you utilize any kind of technology in terms of ground penetrating radar?
Yes, we did. From ground penetrating radar, we know that there are not only the 4 excavated circles, but there are at least in altogether 20.
There we go.
It's ground penetrating radar in connection with geomagnetic methods.
So, who discovered the site, and how early in the process did you get involved?
When I say I discovered the site, so one has to make one remark. The site was first mentioned in a survey report published in 1980, but the survey done in 1963. But in this first visit and in this report, the site had been not recognized in its importance. It just had been written, a site with a lot of flint tools and a site of this period of early village farming communities. But that's all. The surveyor didn't understand the site being a tell, being an artificial mound, a very, very big mound, and its importance. And I am working in this region since 78, and there was a team member in evaluatory excavations done by Harald Hauptmann from Heidelberg University, and in this excavation, first time this culture of Göbekli Tepe had been unwielded and had been visible in its monumentality. And so on. With this knowledge and background, it was easy for me in a visit in '94 now to understand what Göbekli Tepe really is. And in '95, I was able, with a background of the German Archaeological Institute, to end the museum in Şanlıurfa, the next town in the region, to start excavations at this site. And so the rediscovery in '94 was a step towards the recent to the actual archaeological
forward. I see. And are you now the head of the excavations down there?
Yes, since the beginning. Yes, I'm the head of the excavation.
And how big is the team? Would you say that's working down there now? Are you a big team, and do you get a lot of?
Yeah, so we have a team of, let's say, 15 to 20 students in average, and an average 50 workmen with us. So it's a team altogether 70, 80 persons in a season.
And are you down there pretty much all year round, or do you go back and forth to Germany as well to study some of the finds?
No, our base is here in Berlin in the German Archaeological Institute, and the field work is only a minor part of the actual work. So the work later had been done in the labs and in the libraries and on the desk. So we are usually in our average excavating 2 to 3 months a year, and the rest of the year is the work with the findings, with the documentation, and so on.
I see. I'd like to ask you a little bit other things off the cuff here, so to speak, because I've read many of the articles I've read in terms of the site Göbekli Tepe. The writers refer to the site as some kind of proto Garden of Eden almost. Do you have anything to say in terms of that?
Yeah, no, that's a story which was made by a German journalist on the base of a book of David Rolls. It's a British archaeologist, and he was locating the Garden of Eden near the Lake Urmia in Iran. And now the German journalist was mixing several things together, and the idea that the hunter-gatherers in Göbekli Tepe are living like in paradise, because nature was so rich, and now in the early Holocene a lot of rainfall came, and there was an explosion in vegetation and animals, and also in human culture. So this idea of paradise-like environment and the location of a paradise in Lake Urmia by David Rolls, what he was thinking about, where the paradise should be located, had been mixed together, and there was a soup had been cooked, which was really nonsense.
Right. Well, I mean, it is in Turkey, and I don't know how far it is from Mount Ararat, but I mean, the story goes that Noah's Ark landed there, and the people headed out on the plains there. Could there be any biblical connection here, do you think?
I don't like this kind of biblical archaeology. So, it's a danger to mix sources of the Bible, of the Old Testament. It's only part of the myths of the old Oriental high cultures and so on, and especially Stone Age archaeology, because there is a so big distance between the time of, let's say, 9000 BC and the time when the Old Testament had been written. It's maybe the 7th century or 8th century BC. So there are 7,000 years distance between the two events. And it's hard to imagine that there is a remembering of events 7,000 years ago. So I think it's not a good idea to connect these two sources of knowledge.
All right. And as a way of closing off here, I guess, Klaus, I'd like to ask you where you think the story begins, because again, if we just re-emphasize this point that potentially then no other site around the world predates this site, at least in terms of how they used some of the symbols and animals that they placed on the stones. But the question is, where do you think that these people got their mythology from? It just pops up out of nowhere, and that's just incredible to me. What do you think about that, Klaus?
It's not only that site, it's Göbekli Tepe is a site where the people had been doing all these things. So it was a meeting place for people living in a landscape of Upper Mesopotamia, in the land between Upper Euphrates and Upper Tigris rivers. It's a very big land now, southeastern Turkey, northern Iraq, and northern Syria. We know maybe 10 settlements being excavated from this period, from the 10th, 9th millennium. So we know how these people live. They are settled hunter-gatherers, and these people are now are playing with some innovations, and they are inventing the new way of life, the way of village farming societies. And Göbekli Tepe is like a ritual center for these people. So that's our hypothesis. We have to check by future archaeological work, but for the moment it looks like this. So it's not only Göbekli Tepe, it's all these settlements and all these sites in this landscape in Upper Mesopotamia, which are doing now this step, and they are leaving the old way of life of the hunter-gatherers and coming to the village farming way of life. And this is a fundamental change. First time in world history that hunter-gatherers did it. In other regions in the world, they are doing it independently later. In the New World, maybe 6,000, and in East Asia, maybe a little bit later, 7,000, 6,000. As at the Near East, it's our actual knowledge, is the first region in the world where this transition happens in a worldwide scale. But it's not the site of Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli is only a point where these people are getting very visible for us.
Yes.
But they are not just living there. They are living in a distance of 100, 200 kilometers of Göbekli Tepe.
Is there anything else you think is important or of interest that is worth mentioning to our listeners?
Yes, we had a big surprise. So we didn't expect this monumental aspect of hunter-gatherer societies. And especially the Upper Mesopotamian region will give us more surprises in future in archaeology.
Absolutely. Okay, Klaus Schmidt, thank you so much for your time. We know how busy you are, so we're going to keep following your work with great interest. But thank you so much for your time, Klaus.
Yeah. Also, bye-bye. Thanks for calling me. Bye-bye. This mound on top of this limestone ridge is not a natural mound. It's an artificial mound. It's a settlement mound, like many other mounds like that in the Near East. But there's a specific thing with it. It's dating. Usually the settlement mounds are from Bronze Age or Iron Age, but this mound is completely from pre-Pottery Neolithic period, a period which is dated to the 10th, 9th, and 8th millennium BC.
Wow. Okay, so it's very, very old, obviously. And how do you go about dating some of these sites? And can you directly date the stone, or do you date like pottery around, or how do you go about doing that? So what can you tell us about the people who you think live there, or rather maybe they don't even live there, because I guess there's a theory that this was actually a religious site, a temple of sorts, right?
It's a religious site. It's clear, so it's not a settlement site. We call it settlement mound, but the word settlement in Göbekli Tepe has a problem, because mainly we have megalithic buildings which are sanctuaries, clearly sanctuaries. They are not for daily life. They're not made for daily life. With megaliths of many tons weight and so on. The construction of these sites, of these enclosures, had been a big effort for hundreds of persons. So it's mainly a sanctuary. Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
Why don't you just tell our listeners how long you've been excavating and working at the Göbekli Tepe site in Turkey?
I'm working there since 1995. So now we have 15 seasons of excavation behind us, and we are looking forward to the 16th season of yearly excavations at the site.
Wow, that's incredible. So you've been there for a long time. And what would you say to our listeners who haven't heard about the site before? Maybe you can just describe it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a mound on top of a limestone ridge. It's dominating the landscape. It's a landmark, visible from far away, but it's clear, there's no question about it, that we are in this time span between 9,500 and 8,000 with the site of Göbekli Tepe. BC.
So this is obviously predating what we commonly think about the the beginnings of our civilization down in Sumer, Babylonia, Mesopotamia, and so forth.
Yeah, there's a problem with Mesopotamia because there we have the alluvial plain, which is hiding a lot of the early sites. So they are not visible there, but maybe they existed. Maybe we have this period existing there, but now it's buried by the alluvial plain.
Okay.
There is no pottery. It's a pre-pottery site.
Pre-pottery.
So pottery is not invented in this time. But dating, yeah, there are two main possibilities. It's archaeological dating. It means comparison to other sites to have a relative date. Other sites are older or contemporaneous or younger, so you can have a relative chronology by archaeological methods only. But especially by radiocarbon method, we are getting the absolute chronology. And we have a close, dense network of radiocarbon dates from Göbekli Tepe and from other sites which are connected by archaeological dating to the site. So the dating in general is